This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, welcome back everyone. So in the previous video, we have gone through how the documentation happens in a typical agile project. We have seen how a tool like Jira is used for creating epics and user stories. Now let's look at how the waterfall methodology related documentation happens. So in one of the previous videos again, I had mentioned that BRD and FRD are the two major documents which are created in any typical waterfall methodology project. And I have even mentioned at a high level what are the different sections which are there. Now this particular video and the video after this is to discuss about using a sample document and see how these various sections get created and all of those things. In this video, which is like the first of the two videos, I'll go through all the sections which are there in this particular FRD document, and I'll tell you what all details are there. In the second part of this video, what we'll do is we'll try to see how you can use some of the features which are already available within MS Word, which will make it easier for you to create such big documents. Okay. In fact, while this document is just around 13 to 15 odd pages, a typical BRD document might run into a lot many other pages because of the comprehensiveness of all the features that you need to really document. Here this document is only about your notify me. If you remember the illustrative example that you've gone through, notify me, so this document is related to that. But that was a very small application that we looked into, but a typical project would be having a bigger scope, so obviously the requirements would be too many, and the details to be documented will be much more. Okay, so the second part will be more about the tips and tricks about what you can use in order to have a seamless formatting, bordering, citations, adding comments, and or table of contents, all of these things which will make your work easy. Okay, so let's get started. We'll go through the content of this document in this particular video. Okay, so the first page, as usual, you'll start with the heading. You'll tell what document it is, and then you'll mention the project name. So here it is a functional requirement document, which can also be referred to as a functional requirement specifications. So FRD or NFRS are both one and the same. The difference between BRD and FRD also I did discuss in that one of the previous videos. You can go through that. Okay, so this is the first section, first page of your document. After this, you have something called as version control, and followed by you have something called as what do you call this, review and sign of control. These two sections, though important, I'll touch it at the end of this video. When we come back to this, you'll realize as to why I'm pushing it to the end of the video. Okay, so let's proceed further. The table of contents is the next section, which is nothing but you'll have the entire all the sections you're going to follow. You mentioned that along with the page numbers for a quick reference as to where you have which section and all. And of course, you might already be knowing, if you want to go to a particular section, you can just do control plus click, and it takes you to that section. That is something which you can have in table of contents. How it happens and all, you can see it in the formatting discussion that happens in the next video. Okay, so that's one thing. Coming to the executive summary, so what happens here is you give just a brief, maybe a couple of lines about what the company is, maybe where it's headquartered, maybe another one or two lines of what are its major products and services, etc. Followed by, you'll try to see how you can link your existing business requirement implementation to this particular company's business. Okay, if there's something like that you can do, you'll try to add a line or two about it also within your executive summary. Okay, so that's one thing that you do in this particular section. The next section is the purpose. So here in the purpose section, what you actually mention is the purpose of having this particular project implemented. Okay, how is it going to benefit the company, or how, what are the specific business requirements that are going to really be focused upon, so on and so forth. This document, the one which you're seeing now, is something which was created by one of the trainees. So may not be like everything is completely perfect, but you can follow more about what is being mentioned by me during the video rather than just sticking to what is there in the document. Also, one more disclaimer that I have to give you is that whatever is mentioned in this document, or whatever I'm telling, it's not like the perfect way in which a FRD document is created. You can always improvise it. You can always make it more efficient. You can make it more descriptive. You can add more information to it. You can bring in more clarity to the details, because there is nothing like over communication. The more information and the more nitty-gritties that you cover in your document, the easier it will be for the readers, be it the project manager, be it the support team, be it your developers, be it your quality assurance testers, be it your design team, anyone who goes through or your stakeholders also. Anyone who goes through your document, the more details you add, the more clarity it brings to them, and the more easy it will be to consume the information and work according to it. Okay, so if you feel that, okay, these are the few sections over here, but I want to add one more section which gives more information about the data, how it is used, or anything like that. If you feel I want to add a section wherein I want to put up all the mock-up screens, you can do that. There's nothing stopping you. Okay, whatever we are referring right now is just about one sample document. Okay, coming back. So the purpose, as I mentioned here, the purpose, it's showing about the purpose of the document. On top of it, you can also mention the purpose of this particular implementation of the project. Okay, so here if you see at a very high level, this talks about this specific document, where does it fall. So it says there's a functional requirement document. It is highlighted because it's to show that this document is the functional requirement document. How it is going to serve as an input for your requirement feasibility matrix, or the technical design document, or the interface design document. That's the reason you have these arrows flowing out of this document. And then these particular technical design document and interface design document will serve the preparation of the test scripts, which is nothing but your test case creation or the test plan document, things like that. Okay, so that comes under the purpose. Then you have something under the scope. So scope, again, here it's a little different, but the way you can mention is, you can split the scope section into two things. One is in scope, and the other one is out of scope. What do you mean by that? In the in scope section, you'll mention what are the things which you are considering to be part of the implementation of the project. So here, for example, in the notify me, you are considering implementation of the content which has to go into the SMS and email. That is also within the scope. You are considering the notification which has to be displayed on the app and the website to the customer. That is also within scope. You are considering how to handle out of life product related information. That is also in scope. So you can mention that as in scope. Similarly, what is out of scope? Anything beyond the notify me feature, like the payment section, or the delivery section, order tracking, or login, all of these are out of scope of this particular project, right? So maybe you can mention that as out of scope. Or maybe you're supporting this only for a particular type of product, right? You're considering this right now only for notify me to be implemented only for, say, smartphones and electronic appliances to be sold on the e-commerce website, not the others, like some furniture items or stationery items or groceries. No, you're not talking about that, right? So maybe that you can mention is out of scope. Okay, so like that, you mention in scope and out of scope within this scope section. Okay, so that's one thing. Then here in this document, if you see, there's something called as glossary of terms, which is nothing but you talk about the short forms, the acronyms and the abbreviations that you're using in your document. I mean, which you're going to use in the further sections of your document. You want to beforehand give the information to the reader that, okay, whenever I refer to something like SSP, I'm referring to the self-service portal. Okay, you're giving that information beforehand. If there's anything like that which is used in your document, any abbreviations or acronyms, you mention that in this glossary section. Okay, and after this comes the assumptions and dependencies. Again, here, whatever assumptions you're making in your implementation of the project. Okay, as a business analyst, you will not be capturing information which is beyond notify me right now, right? So you assume that everything else is up and running, in place and all. So that's an assumption, right? So maybe you can put that as an assumption. Or um, anything else. So here it is saying that the users are savvy and willing to use the future system, which is like a very generic assumption. But on top of it, if there is any assumption behind your taking up of this particular assignment for implementation, then that assumptions can be coming up here. Dependencies, if there is any dependency, sometimes there could be a particular point which you could be confused about, should it be coming in assumptions section or should it be in the dependencies. You can discuss with your project manager or your stakeholders, and you can work it out accordingly. There's nothing wrong in it. But if there's any dependency, maybe one of the dependency is this particular thing, maybe it's mentioned here, I think. Okay, it's mentioned here that will be in English only, but this could very well be a dependency also. That it can be an assumption also that this particular messages, content, and all will be provided in English language only. That could be one of the points which can come in this section. Okay, so on and so forth. Based on the nature of the functionality that you are going to implement, there could be specific assumptions and dependencies that you can bring out, so that you can mention here. After this comes your heart of the section, which is your actual business requirements. So whatever you have seen till now is all about, the peripheral information. Like, you're talking about assumptions or dependencies or scope and all of these things is like, you're just touching the surface. But this particular section is the one where you get into the, you're doing this, digging deep into the details and bringing out all the required clarity to what is supposed to be part of this particular functionality. Okay, so here if you see, you're mentioning at a high level what is it all about, and then you are coming into the details. So here in this document there are like a couple of mock-up screens which have been, or you can call these as not prototypes, wireframes. Okay, so these are more like a couple of wireframes have been added here. Below that, the information has been given about the entire, you know what is the feature, how is it going to work, and all that stuff. These points are all pretty much should be known to you all by this time, because this is very much the same notify me document, uh, or the same notify me related discussion that we had earlier about how do you create the entire flow journey and all, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it talks about the content which has to go into the emails, the SMSs, and the different type of life cycles of a particular product and all that stuff. Okay, post notify me what happens and all that stuff is there. And as I said, maybe actually I think this is the end of the document. Yeah, this is the end. But in fact, how you can make it better is maybe you could add a flow chart here. Okay, when you're talking about notify me, you can add a flowchart telling that a customer first lands upon login page, then comes to this page, then comes to this particular section, then sees this particular option, clicks on it, and then goes to this place, so on and so forth. And then you start giving the details. Or maybe you can use a use case diagram, or maybe a data flow, anything which could make this document more informative and more easy to understand. You can make all those changes in the document, and then take it ahead for the review process. Okay, so now as a BA, what you have done is, let's say that you have conducted a set of workshops, you got all the details. At the end of every workshop, you have created a minutes of meeting document, you got those reviewed, and then using those minutes of meeting documents as your reference material, you have created this functional requirement document. Okay, once you create this, okay, once you create this document, you'll have all of these details. You'll mention all of these points about what is the executive summary, purpose, glossary, terms and conditions, which is assumptions and dependencies, the functional requirements. You mention all of these things, and then you send it across to the set of stakeholders. Let's say you have around 4 or 5 stakeholders to whom you send this document. When you send this document, does it mean that all the stakeholders will verify this document and they'll immediately give a sign off and approval on this document? It doesn't work that way. So what happens is they come back with their own set of feedback, and now you're expected to make those changes and create another revised version of this particular document and send it back to the stakeholders. Now they'll again go through your revised version, and they might come back with again another set of comments, and then you'll redo the changes and all those things. So this back and forth process may continue across, and you might be creating multiple versions of the document. Okay, now there should be a log of what all changes you're doing. Maybe in the initial version you have mentioned something about a specific line about how a email will be sent to the customer. Maybe that was your zero point 0.1 version of this document. Then when you received a feedback, based on that you made a change in that email content, then you revise this document to zero point 0.2 version and you send it to stakeholders. Then they might come back with some SMS content to be sent to be revised. So you revise it and send the zero point 0.3 version. So now what is happening is this zero point 0.1 version is going to 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 like that. And then finally at a particular version, all the stakeholders will be happy and they will not have any further feedback. So now that final zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.6 version which was there, that you're going to take it as the final version. So you understand? So it has undergone 6 or 7 sets of changes. So now there should be a proper section wherein you mention all of these things. And that is what comes in your uh, revision control. Okay, so here if you see, this is the version control. Okay, so what are you doing here? Initially when you first create this document, you'll just mention something like this, only this one row. You'll mention date, version, author will be your name, description as to initial inputs received during workshops. That will be your point over here. You'll mention the date and this will be the only row in your version control. When you send it, the stakeholders will come back with some comments, as I said. Then what you do, you make those changes and then you add that latest date and you mention specifically what are the changes that you have done. This is very important because say 3 months down the line or 9 months down the line or 3 years down the line, if someone comes back and says, Ranjit, why did you make this change? Because I remember very well in the workshop which was conducted, we did not expect this content to be in this way. Then you can refer to this version control. You can tell them that yes, it was not there in the initial version, but it was something which got added later because as per the inputs from so and so team or so and so person. Okay, so here if you see, there were 3 changes that were done. In the next version again there were some 3 changes. Here it was only about adding some content, but here it was about removing some content, changing some content, all those stuff. Okay, so this is the purpose of maintaining a version control section in your document. Okay, in fact some of them do maintain this version control not at the beginning of the document the way it is here, but rather they maintain it at the end of the document. Okay, so that a particular reader will go through the entire contents and then see that there's something called version control, and based on which multiple changes have happened. We can do that way or this way. It anyway works. It depends on you might have a word with your project manager before even sharing this document across, and you can discuss about how the content should be there, and you can decide upon based upon that. Okay, so this is the purpose of your version control. You're going to mention the date when you're sending the revised version, the revised version number, the name. Here ABC is nothing but you should actually mention your name because you would be the one who have created this document, and then you should mention based on the response to which particular team or which particular stakeholders comment you have made the changes and the specific changes what you have done. Okay, that you keep on doing. So in this document if you see, it was 0.7th version where the final set of changes were done, and that was revised and made as 1.0, and that was the signed off version. This is just a sample section that was added here. Okay, now there's one final section that we need to discuss about, which is nothing but your review and sign off control, which is nothing but you also need to mention the specific names of the stakeholders who have gone through this document and have given their approval or the sign off saying that we are okay with this implementation. Again, why is it needed? Maybe in this current month there was a set of users who stakeholders have given you this confirmation. Maybe in the next month one of these persons have resigned the company, your client's company, and have moved somewhere else and someone else has joined here. Now that person maybe a few months down the line may say, I don't remember discussing these requirements. Then you can mention that based on this review and sign of control, I see that this specific person was the one who has given sign off. Maybe he or she was the one who was there prior to you in the company, who has gone through and who was the stakeholder. So that way you're just trying to make sure that all these specific details along with the specific people responsible for it are duly documented in in this particular functional requirements document. Okay, so here again when you say IS team, CS team and all, instead of mentioning the team you are expected to mention the name of the person. You can mention something like this as different people who have been the respective ones from that team who have given you the sign off. Okay, so this is all about it, about the content. As I said, there are multiple things that you can do in order to make this document creation a much more easier process and a better version, formatted very well and looks very pleasing, and it also has all the required uh, you know accessible features into it. So that particular section of formatting and all we will look into in the next video. Okay, so we'll stop this here. Thanks everyone.